I think there's a huge misunderstanding about this issue in the church today. People don't understand that there are different levels of sin. And the lowest level of sin, okay, now first, all sin is sufficient to disqualify us
Right.
from salvation or from
Right.
meeting God's standards. So even what would look like the smallest
Mm.
sin would be sufficient to keep me out of heaven apart from the work of Jesus, all right?
It all puts us on a similar playing field
Yes, we've
before the
all sinned
cross,
and
yeah.
fallen short of the glory of God. But there are different levels of sin. And here's how I think people should understand it in a pretty simple way. The lowest level of sin, the word sin, it implies the concept of to miss the mark. So
Right.
when someone sins at a low level, they are missing the mark of God's standard, and it might be in a way that isn't even really noticeable. It could be a sin of omission. It could be something like God wanted you to be generous and give someone $5 and you only gave them $2. And it looked like you were doing something good, but you actually sinned if you didn't do all that God told you to
Right.
do. That would just be like a silly example. The next level of sin I think that people would get into would be when we think of like transgression or like trespassing boundaries where God told us, no, don't go here. This is a sin. So that could be more serious things, stealing, things that hurt other people, things that break commitments. And then the highest level of sin, I think about how the Bible uses terms like these are sins that God hates. Hands that
Detest, yeah.
shed innocent blood, or the Bible uses terms like abomination and detestable about homosexuality. And that is really communicating to us as modern readers like the same reaction we have to a dirty diaper, that it is like detestable and repugnant and kind of
Mm.
makes you want to throw up. That's how God feels about homosexuality. He says that in his word. That's not Christians
Right.
being mean or cruel or harsh. That's what God says. And so the reason that those sins are more serious is because they rebel against the creation order that God has established in a more overt way. They violate natural law, which is just the way God created the world to function.